Chief Economist and Head of Research and Development at the NESG, Dr. Olusegun Omisakin. You're very welcome, sir. Round of applause, please.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was a very fantastic snapshot into the state of the Nigerian economy. And I hope that at the end of this presentation, which is aimed to stimulate discussions and to set a deeper context, we will be able to understand why transformation, rather than just reformation, is the best way for us to go. We set out this pace last year during our economic summit. The idea was to move beyond the usual narratives of playing with the current economic issues, but looking into the major structural foundational issues that will help us to move beyond now and then move into a better state. After the COVID-19, we all know how different countries struggled with their economic prosperity. Some got it right, some are still struggling, and many are still below the previous benchmark performance. The case of Nigeria is very interesting because we all know that if we need to just spend 1 minute in discussing what we need to do or what economic transformation stands for, then we just say economic transformation is about beating the odds, identifying the odds and beating them. That is the summary of economic transformation. In this case, in the case of Nigeria, we have our odds in a very unique state. This is a macroeconomic instability heat map, which shows the current temperature of the economy. Or better still, which shows the current BP of the economy. We all know that when the BP, the blood pressure, remains unstable and is increasing every day, then something is about to happen. We hope that at the end of this presentation, our advocacy at the NESG, in collaboration with what the government is doing now, will help us normalize this BP at a level that will be sustainable for the prosperity of the nation. When you look at it from the trade balance, our net foreign investment, our fiscal balances, our public debts, inflation, exchange rate, interest rate, every major macroeconomic indicators are showing the sign that things are not going well. And we all know about this, so we're not going to waste time talking about each one of them as it were, but we will just make sure that we'll talk more on what we need to do going forward. In my presentation, I'll quickly go through this analysis in 3 forms. I will speak briefly on the state of the Nigerian economy, what we had in 2023. The idea is for us to have a better understanding of where we're coming from and then understand the problem we need to face, the challenges that we need to face, and how we need to come up strong this year and years to come. I will also speak to our proposed transformation roadmap, what it means, and the implication for our medium-term policy priorities. And lastly, look at some of the outlook. What do we see going forward this year? Now, if we want to look at what happened 2023, we know that virtually everybody in Nigeria knows the basic information about the Nigerian economy, whether you are whether at the micro level or the macro level. But there are critically 5 charts that will help us explain that better and efficiently. The first one is the fact that our economic growth momentum declined further. After the COVID-19, Nigerian economy has been struggling with growth. Last year, the struggle continues while we recorded weaker growth. For the first 3 quarters of 2023, the average growth revealed 2.5%. This growth is not just about how high or low we are doing, but it's about also who or which sectors are contributing to this growth. If you look at the major classifications of sectors, we could see that services remains the main driver of this growth, and the oil sector remains in the negative territory. This is not a good picture. when we look further as to the dynamics of this growth, the contributors, we are able to identify three players, key players among the sectors. The first are the growth drivers. The second group are the stagnators. And the third one are the draggers. If you look at the column, the first column talks about the contributions of these sectors to GDP growth. The second column talks about the sectoral growth rate among these sectors. And the last column talks about the contribution of these sectors to GDP, their shares in GDP. When you look at the growth drivers, you will notice, if we compare that with what we've been having before, that the growth drivers are shrinking. Now we are having majorly three of them playing the role of driving the Nigerian economy. We used to have more of them there. Most of them are now what we call stagnators. Now the growth is weak. Not only that they have weak growth, they are also the major contributor to her job creation, poverty reduction, which is very important in talking about transformation. And so if they need to contribute growth to, if they need to contribute to poverty reduction and job creation, they need to grow. But now they are stagnating, and there are many of them. And their total contribution to GDP is around 52%. So this is the challenge. A much interesting issue here is the fact that our oil and gas sector remains in the negative territory, though we could recognize the fact that this is getting better compared to what we've been having before. Now, the basis of transformation is to play her best team. The current AFCON also reveals why playing your best team is important in winning games. We have some countries that are CBC with experimenting with players. So they change they change the team too often, and they are back at home now. And we have some that are playing their best team, like Senegal and the rest, and they are seeing the game. So we need to pull out our best sectors out of being stagnators to growth drivers. And that is the foundation of our dream of transformation. Other interesting issue that we can see in 2023 is inflation. We all know this. The pressure is becoming so high that on the average, we had 24.5%. And as at December, we had as high as 28.9%, which we've never experienced in the past for the past 18 years. But we have some good news also. The government implemented the removal of subsidy and also the harmonization of foreign forex. And so we have the opportunity of raking in more revenue from the side of government budgets. And so for 11 months in 2023, we have about 14 trillion naira. That also impacts on the size of our budget for the year. And that's a very good news in the sense of what we're talking into. We also have another interesting development in 2023. We are doing better off in terms of our external trade position, but we need to strengthen the movement. We need to make it better than what we have today. So I'm setting this context to show that the journey of transformation is going to be difficult, but if we understand our hearts, we will play the game better. Now, what does transformation look like for a country like Nigeria? Transformation, in a way, is just about how we reallocate our resources. In economics, there are different theoretical explanations, but everything boils down to being efficient with your resources. How do we move factors of productions from the less productive sectors to the high-value sectors, the sectors that would also impact job creation, reduce poverty, leads to innovations, and then bring us up among the Committee of Nations. So it's still the same way of saying playing our best team at this time. Now, what we proposed in our report is a roadmap that not only are we speaking to the transformation, the need for transformation, but we also know that how we get it done matters. And the time frame that we use also matters. So it's all about, the roadmap is all about identifying the role of the government, the monetary and the fiscal authorities in developing a time-bound strategy that will show to us clear targets and then the outcomes of this transformation. Now let's look at it broadly. We look at this framework. This shows that transformation journey is a function of time. No one gets transformed suddenly. So we've proposed not more than 2 years for us to achieve great stabilization. Now, when we say 2 years, we don't really mean we need to wait for 2 years, but we mean that even in the next 2 quarters, we can do a lot in stabilizing our economy. And we can keep doing that in making sure that we have a better stabilization. And then from 2025 to 2026, a great deal of consolidation is needed. We shouldn't be interested in having the macro indicators behaving well, but we should take this opportunity to look at the factors that are creating the deviations. Because this is not all about bringing it down, raise it up. It's about making sure that they all communicate together and the deviations are minimal. And the last stage is for us to start our long-term role, long-term vision of making the nation one of the best in the world. And this is the acceleration phase. As interesting and simple as this might be, the role of policy implementation is very key. The reflection points highlight the importance of policy implementation. If the implementation is great, we can quicken the process. If the implementation is weak, we elongate them. And so the discussions today are focused on how do we make sure that these policy implementations are smart and efficient so that we achieve each of the stage quicker than we anticipate. The first phase is stabilization. And what do we mean by stabilization? The goal of stabilization among countries anywhere is to strengthen the fiscal and monetary framework to minimize the volatility. Stabilization does not necessarily mean in this time reducing, as I said, inflation, this and that. Yes, these are very critical, but it means that we should try as much as possible to minimize how often and how strong these indicators deviate from the fundamentals. The idea is the fact that when we do this, we will be able to have a more improved and efficient sectors. Productivity will increase. We will be able to attract investments and then promote growth that we all dream of. This is where we are today. The essence of stabilization is to see how these indicators, macro indicators, are playing the game for growth. If they play well, we'll see the result in our growth. If they don't, then we will see it. What if these stabilization factors or targets, the macroeconomic indicators, are well tamed in such a way that they pull our stagnators to join the growth drivers? That is the result of stabilization. Stabilization in this context is not all about just stopping at reducing inflation and then every other macro indicators, but going beyond that and making sure that they reflect, the gains are reflecting in the quality of growth. And so this is what we have today. Let's look at this deeper. If we present what stabilization means within the context of our productive sectors, this is how we play for now. This is what we call Nigeria's growth impact quadrant. We have 4 quadrants. We have the first column talking to the range of low growth. The second column is the range of high growth. We also have the second row, or the first row and second row talks to level of impact. So when you look at this game, you notice that we have most of our sectors, it's either they are growing at a low rate, or they are making low impact. So for instance, the leader here, agriculture, trade, are experiencing currently low growth, and indeed they have moderate impact. So for instance, agric has huge number of employment, but weak productivity and remuneration. So it's low, the impact is low on job creation, quality job creation. So agric currently contributes to working poor population we have in Nigeria. When you look at what happens at a low growth and low impact, this is the worst case scenario. And we have, unfortunately, many sectors playing in this game. These sectors don't grow, and they don't even have impact on the broader economic goals. The third one, on the high growth and low impact. These are sectors that are doing fantastically well when it comes to how they grow, but they don't make impact. They grow, but they have weak capacity to employ more people. Their job capacity, the capacity to employ more people in that sector is limited, even though they are growing. So on the overall impact on transformation, it's useless. Now, what happens at the fourth quadrant? Why are we not playing our game here? Why don't we have high growth sectors that are making great impacts? That is the essence, the outlook of any stabilization. As I said, the impact, the essence is to see us playing this game. What will be the result of the stabilization phase? This is the result. Let's pull more sectors from the low growth, low impact range to more of high growth and high impact range. What if we have our trade, our Greek, our manufacturing sectors, not just having high growth, but also making great impact? Think about this. You have a Greek sector that has high value addition, that has a lot of innovations that are driven by people who are not carrying hoes and cutlasses. Think about the impacts on inflation rates. Think about the impacts on poverty reduction. Think about the impacts on employment. That is what high growth, high impact means in terms of stabilization phase. What do we mean when we say we need to consolidate this? This is the second phase. As a matter of fact, our proposal shows that we need just 1 year for this phase if we have done our job quite well in the previous phase. The idea here is to consolidate, is to identify the gains of pulling our sectors into high-performing, high growth, and high impact, and making sure that the fundamentals that are driving this is solidified. Also, the idea is to say we then lay this as the foundation for our acceleration phase. Laying this for foundation means now we have a better economic structure. Now we have a better macro stability situation. Now we have investors who are interested in the Nigerian economy. Now we can set our leg on our bigger goal, which happens to be wanting to be among the League of Nations in years to come. Now, this is how to go about it. We will have recorded enough improvement in our Greek sector, or mostly sectors that we have pulled down to the high growth and high impact, to the extent that we wouldn't just be interested in their growth rates or how they make impact, but now we look at them from the perspective of deepening, where we have them leading the job creation agenda, where we have them leading the innovation agenda, and we have them leading the trade agenda, especially in Africa. And the last phase, in this case, is the acceleration goal, which is to mean that we then focus on our long-term goal. Last year, the NESG presented the vision and the ambition of Nigeria being a 4 trillion economy by 2030. That looks ambitious, but this is the foundation. If we get it right in previous phases, we can beat the odds clearly. And so this phase then talks about achieving growth, not just about growth, but actualizing our natural resources to drive our collective purpose as a nation. And the first part to start with is understanding our natural capital. We are blessed tremendously with our natural capital. But if we don't understand the purpose or where we are going or the vision, we will neglect them. So the first phase is to understand them and harness this capital in a way that it leads to built capitals. These are infrastructure, these are physical capitals that will aid trade and businesses in Nigeria. And then we have that impacting on human capital. The chairman has referenced the population impact of our transformation agenda. This is where we can harness what we have to make sure that we move to where we are going. And ultimately, the idea is to have a society that can be proud of having a social capital where everybody believes that this is our nation, this is our country, and less of Japa syndrome will be happening when we have achieved this. What will the success look like? We all know that. I know we have different indicators for what success will look like if we can achieve this. It will impact our GDP size. It will impact our economic structure. It will impact our employment and our poverty and inequality situations. These are the current situations in Nigeria. We can move from less than $2,000 per capita income to more than $10,000 per capita income if we play the game very well. And lastly, before I take my seat, I want us to look at what we expect to happen this year. What do we see happening in this year that will start as the basis of our stabilization? Well, we know stabilizing an economy is not that an easy job. We all know that. But we can start from somewhere. There are different projections as to how our economic trajectory will be in 2023 and 2024, excuse me. We have projected 3.5%, being driven by the current policy implementations and experimentations that we've been having since 2023. We believe that some of these policies will have some benefits that will also help us achieve better this year than what we had last year. But ultimately, this is still a very weak growth. 3.5 cannot drive an economy. 3.5 cannot stabilize an economy. 3.5 cannot lead an economy into a transformation stage. But we can do that if we play the game very well, if the policy implementations are efficient enough, we can do far beyond this. Secondly, we expect inflation to take a very critical stage in 2024. In 2023, 2021, 2022, we had serious issues with inflation. We had, on the average in 2023, 24.5% inflation rate. We are forecasting by the end of the year, we should be able to do 21.5. The reason is because the drivers of inflation in Nigeria are mostly stubborn. And this is a hard reality. And the implementations of different implementations also could lead to more inflation, but we expect a coordination. We expect a targeted reform at core issues that are leading to inflationary pressure to work on stabilizing it. So we're expecting 21.5, but we can still do better than this. And lastly, our projection for unemployment and poverty, exchange rate, and external reserves are here. We believe that while unemployment and poverty are structural issues, but we can still do better than what we've been doing so far. If we get the first phase, especially the stabilization phase, right, and the exchange rate also, we see a more stability, even though we believe that at the end of the year, we're still going to be doing an official exchange rate that is hovering around 900 naira to US dollar, but we expect more stability I think what we need now is more stability. And lastly, we believe that we'll have more growth in our external reserves. These are the key points that we think we can look into and then discuss how we can achieve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.